Narcissists and accountability, the psychology of denial, victimhood, and toxic nostalgia. Understanding and addressing narcissistic behavior can be one of the most challenging tasks for therapists, especially when narcissists are forced to confront their misbehavior or even abusive tendencies. In this video, we'll explore the psychological mechanisms narcissists employ when held accountable, including their denial, reframing of events, victimhood claims, and toxic nostalgia. By understanding these patterns, therapists can enhance their ability to navigate complex dynamics while supporting clients impacted by narcissistic behaviors. Narcissists typically find accountability unbearable because their self-esteem hinges on a fragile, idealized self-image. When faced with the consequences of their actions, whether personal, professional, or legal, they often experience this as an existential attack on their carefully constructed persona. They are adept at avoiding responsibility, not because they don't see the truth, but because admitting fault would threaten the image of themselves they work so tirelessly to protect. For narcissists, being held accountable for causing harm triggers intense shame. However, rather than metabolizing that shame constructively, they default to blame-shifting and self-serving narratives that absolve them of wrongdoing. To therapists, this refusal to accept accountability often appears as a recurring theme in their relationships and behavior. When forced to face the fallout of their actions, narcissists rely on an arsenal of defense mechanisms designed to deflect blame and protect their self-image. Among the most common are reframing and rationalization. Narcissists may assert that they had no choice or that others made them do it. These statements work to shield them from bearing responsibility, shifting the narrative away from what they deliberately chose to do. Another key tactic is invoking victimhood. Phrases like, "I am being punished for doing the right thing," or "I set boundaries and that's why I'm being treated unfairly," are often used to elicit sympathy or redirect attention away from their actions. This ability to distort events in their favor often leaves victims and even therapists feeling disoriented and questioning their own perceptions of the situation. One of the more insidious tactics narcissists employ is toxic nostalgia. This involves rewriting past events in a way that preserves their heroism or victimhood while diminishing the harm they caused. For example, they may recount incidents of abuse as events where they were the ones who were misunderstood, manipulated, or even attacked. Through this lens, their harmful behaviors are sanitized or justified as noble efforts to maintain relationships or expose in others. For therapists, it's critical to recognize how this toxic nostalgia serves to keep the narcissist disconnected from reality. Rather than confronting the pain they've caused, narcissists reframe the past to avoid shame. These narratives often serve as a strategic tool for manipulation, guilt-tripping others, or reinforcing their constructed self-image. While narcissism and psychopathy are distinct, they share overlapping traits, particularly when accountability comes into focus. Both narcissists and psychopaths exhibit a superficial charm, a lack of empathy, and an ability to manipulate others for their own gain. However, psychopaths typically operate with colder calculation, while narcissists are more emotionally reactive due to their constant need for external validation or supply. The concept of narcissistic supply is critical here. For narcissists, everything revolves around maintaining admiration and control. Losing that supply by being held accountable can lead to defensive rage, severe denial, or elaborate victimhood claims. In cases where narcissistic tendencies intersect with psychopathic behaviors, the manipulations become even more pronounced, making it essential for therapists to remain vigilant. When directly confronted with their actions, narcissists often react in one of three ways: denial, rage, or reframing the incident altogether. Denial allows them to act as though the problem doesn't exist at all. If denial fails, rage surfaces as a way to intimidate or deflect the conversation. Finally, when neither strategy works, they resort to hyperflexibility in storytelling, changing their narrative so rapidly that others struggle to keep up, effectively derailing any attempt to hold them accountable. Therapists must be prepared for these reactions. They should anticipate attempts to entangle them in manipulative explanations or to shift the focus away from true self-reflection. Strengthening awareness of these tactics is key to maintaining control of therapeutic sessions and protecting the integrity of the process. When narcissists face significant consequences, such as losing a job, ending a relationship, or facing legal action, their avoidance tactics escalate. Rather than acknowledging mistakes, they often amplify the blame-shifting and victimhood claims. For therapists, this poses a unique challenge: how to remain empathetic without enabling these distorted narratives. By carefully examining behavioral patterns in crisis, therapists can teach clients how to better recognize these manipulative tendencies in their lives. For victims of narcissistic abuse, this can provide clarity and validation regarding their experiences. Victims of narcissistic behavior often bear the brunt of manipulation, experiencing confusion, self-doubt, and even guilt in the aftermath of these relationships. Reframing and victimhood claims, especially when presented with toxic nostalgia, can leave victims questioning whether they were at fault. Therapists play a critical role here by providing a space for victims to understand the dynamics they encountered and empowering them to trust their own perceptions. By helping victims identify narcissistic patterns, therapists can offer tools to rebuild their self-esteem and establish healthy boundaries moving forward. For therapists working directly with narcissists, the goal is rarely about curing the narcissistic tendencies altogether. Instead, therapy can focus on encouraging even modest self-reflection and pushing for incremental responsibility. While many narcissists resist deeper introspection, therapists can nonetheless create moments of insight by fostering an environment of accountability. This process requires clear boundaries. Narcissistic clients may attempt to manipulate sessions, shift blame, or test the therapist's resolve. Therapists must learn to identify and neutralize these behaviors while maintaining composure. Phrases like, "let's focus on the impact of your actions," can be used to redirect the conversation back to accountability. Despite the best efforts of therapists, there are cases where meaningful progress with narcissistic clients is unlikely. When accountability remains persistently avoided and manipulative behaviors dominate the interactions, it may indicate that therapy's limitations have been reached. In such situations, the ethical responsibility of the therapist is to prioritize their own mental health and professional integrity while considering the impact on other clients. Discontinuing therapy with narcissistic clients can be a difficult decision, but is sometimes necessary. Having the courage to acknowledge when therapy is not serving the intended purpose reflects professionalism and a strong understanding of boundaries. Beyond individual therapy sessions, therapists have the opportunity to raise broader awareness about narcissism and its impacts. Community workshops, group therapy settings, or psychoeducational materials on narcissistic patterns can foster informed discussions and empower people to recognize manipulation when they see it. This educational role can also extend to supporting victims in specific ways, from advocating for themselves in harmful relationships to seeking justice if legal or systemic accountability for the narcissist is needed. The topic of narcissistic accountability remains a complex and essential area of study for therapists. By understanding the psychological mechanisms narcissists employ to avoid responsibility, whether through reframing, toxic nostalgia, or victimhood claims, therapists can better navigate these dynamics in their practice. Furthermore, they can help clients impacted by narcissistic abuse to rebuild their sense of self and reclaim their agency. Ultimately, this work calls for both professional clarity and compassion. By equipping themselves with the right tools, therapists can take on the challenges of working with narcissistic behaviors while contributing meaningfully to the healing of abuse victims and the cultivation of healthier interpersonal dynamics.